Well, that was intense. Woo! I find myself saying this after every episode of House of the Dragon so far that was the best episode, but I truly believe episode 7 was the best episode from beginning to end. The intensity from the first moment all the way on was just that. It starts out with a funeral and the ass kicking commences immediately. Also, if you ever needed reinforcement that 99.9% of the characters in this show are detestable pieces of shit, let episode 7 stand as all the evidence you need. Holy cow, these people suck. All right. The only people that are worth rooting for are pretty much already dead or have left the show. All the remaining characters, it's like you're not choosing a hero in this show. You're choosing who's worse. What's the worst option? There's detestable, and then there's pieces of shit. And my pimp daddy Otto Hightower has made his return. Obviously, he weaseled his way back in, and as he has done in the previous episodes that he has appeared in, he made things worse. So let me go ahead and bring in Thade, who's fresh off of our overnight adventures. I am trusting that you watched the show, that you watched it live, right?
Yes. That was intense. Though I will say, even though I know I'm supposed to hate Aemon Targaryen, that kid had some balls going to get Vhagar.
That the only balls he's shown, pretty much. I mean, he ends up being one of the, and this is a full spoiler alert, guys. We're not only spoiling this episode, but we're spoiling things that pretty much are source material to a certain extent. I won't go all the way, but what I will tell you about Aemon Targaryen, he is one of the pieces of trash of this entire Dance of the Dragon story. He basically becomes Aegon and the blacks and the greens, and now, oh, by the way, they officially called themselves that now. You officially saw the battle lines drawn when you heard Rhaenyra talking about, I can't stand against the greens on my own. I need you with me. So when you saw at the stabbing incident where they're all in the Driftmark throne room, you see them standing on either side, and you see Daemon clearly go stand by her. So yeah, you saw the battle lines drawn there. He is he becomes, like I said, a complete. They're all jerks. All of the Hightower line are jerks. I can't blame them once again because it's their parents and their grandparents that pushed them to this level. They're every bit the assholes that their mothers and their fathers and their grandparents were. Otto Hightower is an asshole. His kids are assholes. His grandchildren are assholes. Daemon, I mean, there are people that you guys haven't even seen yet that are going to come into the fold, who, as they come in later in this story, are less detestable than the people that we know now. But as far as all three of the Hightower kids, Aegon and Aemon, they're trash. All right, and Otto Hightower rolls right in and says, look, daughter, I'm glad you're as much of trash as I am. I didn't think you had it in you. And I'm like, that's not a compliment. That was not
he's a horrible piece of shit.
Great parenting. This show is not a parenting guide. Hey, Jumper, how you doing? Damn, who do you root for when everybody's bad? They're not just bad. They're garbage. And so let's go in order. We start out with the let's recap this. Let's start where we should. We start out with a somber moment. One of the good people in the show that wasn't garbage, Lena, who died last episode, as far during childbirth and via her own dragon, she's laid to rest, and which was a very respectful and beautiful ceremony. I'm not going to say I enjoyed it, but I thought it was well done. I thought it was the way all the formalities were done. The family was there, even though they hate each other for the most part. They all showed that familiar respect that you show at a funeral, no matter what kind of divisions. You rarely see situations where a family, they don't show up to the funeral. I mean, that's even if they're just staring at each other and cross-eyeing each other, they're still there, and that's what
I
you see.
have been to many a family funeral where we glared at each other over a coffin. So yes.
Yeah. And I like the fact that the Valerian tradition, of and that the what he was reading off, we belong to the sea, we go back to the sea, and the salt runs through Valerian blood. I really enjoyed the dialogue in this episode was great, even when it was just a conversation between one person and another. Lena and Corlon talking about about his lust for the throne, even though she gave it up a generation ago. It's his lust to keep her on the throne, or to have his family blood on the throne because he thinks that they were robbed. And she's putting
Yeah.
up, and she basically tells him, "You're doing so at the cost of our children." And if you look at it, all the arrangements that have been made, and that's where this takes place, all the arrangements that have been made have been to put everybody that you see on the screen in some position of power to be on that throne, which is why you see way down the line in Game of Thrones where Drogon just burns it down because he sees that as a source of all the evil. It corrupts everybody. So their conversation. So you see Daemon, and then you see his brother trying to be a brother. Hold on, make sure that I'm on there. Ah, damn it again, dude. This thing. I'm gonna ask you, Nash, if I can fix this. All right. So we weren't on screen before. Here you go. But this is King Viserys trying to console his brother who's just lost his wife, and even though Daemon didn't like lustfully love her like he wants for Rhaenyra, he still regarded her, he still respected her, it still hurt. He didn't want her to die like that.
Well, he did say that we had our good times when he was talking to Rhaenyra.
Yeah,
There were good times, is what he said.
And he respected her honesty. They knew they were in a sham of a marriage. So you see here, Viserys is kind of comforting him, saying, "Hey, come back to King's Landing. There's a place for you in my court." And him being the usual dick self, he says, "Nah, there's nothing for me back there. I don't need anyone." And he goes off. And then from that point on, once the sun sets in this episode, the shit goes down. People go looking for other people's dragons. People go banging people. I mean, Aemon goes looking for a dragon. He basically senses that she's around, and he hunts her down. And when she's sleeping, he bonds with her. Unfortunately,
yeah. At first, she looked at him and she was like, "I'm gonna burn you, kid. You're bugging me." And then he's all, high Valerian at her, and she's like, "All right, fine."
Yeah, she sensed that there was no fear there, not just the Valyrian blood, but there's no fear. And when he gave those chance to heal, and basically he's like, okay, wait a minute, this isn't the pussy, this. And then when he mounted her and was flying, and that was a test, she was testing him. Are you worthy to ride me? And he proved it. One of his few bright spots that he's gonna have, where you actually were rooting for him. I kind of felt like the Never-Ending Story, where he's riding Luck Dragon. It's never ending stories except with assholes. so what ends up happening for those you guys have all, I hope everyone here is always all watching, but obviously what happens is the Valerian children are like, hey, so you're jacking our dragon, and then that's when the fight breaks out, and it's pretty brutal. Then you see the little bitch in him come out, because then he's hitting girls, I mean, that ain't cool, and they're just all fighting, and then finally it's like, you know what, you're gonna smash my head on a rock? How about I take your eye? And but the story is he gladly gave up the eye for the dragon, and that's the dragon that he mounts for for the rest of his time on this planet, or Earth. So he's but like I said, he buys into what the high tower mentality is, and you see the maneuvering around with the one thing I did like about this episode is they cut to the chase with Rhaenyra and Daemon. They know the strategy. She even says, with you at my side, there's nobody can easily challenge my claim. And she's exactly right. Because even if you want to call her first kids bastards, you know what? They can make them disappear. Hey, they made a husband disappear. They can make the brown-haired children disappear. But with him, the prince, the second in line, and hers, now they start having kids. Nobody can doubt those parentages. So yeah, it was strategic, and I love the way she finally shines. This last episode, I really liked Emma Darcy. She was really great in that last episode, having the kid, showing all that strength, even if she's bleeding up and down the stairs. But to to see her start to think like a general, to start to think like a schemer, to start moving the pieces in place, and you see how far ahead of the game that her and Damon are, as opposed to the wusses on the other side there. Otto Hightower is the only one that really has a clue, but that's just not enough to work with there.
Is Allison just stupid? That's my question. Like, she honestly thought that Viserys would allow that shit to go during the scene in the throne room.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know what she was thinking. I mean, I guess a mother's rage. I'm not a mother, but grabbing that knife and going like that. You thought Rhaenyra was going to stand there and let you stab one of her kids. So it doesn't matter whose father they are. You know whose mother they are, and she was coming in, and your badass kid stole some shit. There was a fight. Kid, and then they tried to bring up the whole bastard thing, and I'm like, I don't think you guys get this. It doesn't matter who knows. Doesn't matter who knows. It's who's in the seat of power.
And I love how Aemon throws his brother under the bus.
But hey, his brother owned up and says, we all know, everybody knows, but but like I said, it's all about alliances.
Yeah.
Even Lena knows, hey, the children aren't of our blood. And you know what? I love Koros's response. History doesn't remember blood, it remembers names. And he's right. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. All this is going to get lost in antiquity. But I love the dialogue between him and his wife. I love all the one-on-one conversations in this episode were really good.
Oh God, yes.
Yes, please like and subscribe, and then go over to my channel too, because we're simulcasting on both of our channels. My brand new fledgling channel that I'm building. This is the only live stream that we'll be doing on that Sci-Fi Center channel. Eventually, I'm going to get around to doing my really 5 to 10 minute content that I really want to do on that channel, but I just haven't had the time because I've been busy. But yeah, right now this is streaming on both of our channels. So let me go ahead and give you the link to that. And there will be some live streams and stuff that we do. So I'm going to put that in the chat. So if you guys want to go over, and if you haven't subscribed yet, you can watch it on both of them. But yeah, watch them simultaneously and give us both a like. It helps. But yeah, this episode was a mind fuck. There wasn't a lot of violence, but there was just a lot of holy shit.
Yeah, like I said, the only thing I could say about that episode, just like right out of the box, was like I was sitting here watching it, and just like right out of the box, I was just like, "Whoa!"
I'm like, I mean, in the way they happened, like 1, 2, 3. I mean, things were happening in such quick succession. I'm like, "Whoa, that happened! We're on to this." And so what ends up happening, dear Stabby? Oh, geez, I'm just reading an article. And the only person that's actually a good guy and actually deserved to live, to be honest with you, is the one that floated off in the boat, and that's Laenor, because all he did was what was asked of him and what was ordered of him. He is what he is. He was willing to commit. He was like, you know what? I'm back. I'm going to commit. I've been a horrible this. And she's like, nah, you know what? I think I need you to go.
She really wasn't. Okay, so she really wasn't callous about it. When Damon told her, for us to get away with what we're about to do, Laenor has to die.
And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, they're going to do it this way, because in the books, spoiler alert, since it's already happened now and they've taken their liberties. In the book, that night that he floats off with, they get into a fight, and that night, or whatever the hell his name is, he kills him. Yeah. And then they suspect in the book that it was our Damon that paid him off to kill him, and then he goes and kills him. So they all die, so there's no evidence. So what they've done here, and I remember what we were talking about when the show hit, is that not everything that happens in the book is going to happen, and that's not them defying the book. The book is told from so much hearsay and mushroom and all this that you're hearing things that have been lost in antiquity. What we're watching in the show is canon. So what we're watching in the show is really what happened. So now you see how the rumors that have gone throughout history have happened, have taken place. I love the way they did that. They basically said, you know what, you need to disappear. And they made you think that that's what they did. And I'm like, wow. I hate all these people. When I saw that, because I thought they were going to follow the book, to true, and I'm like, wow, you know what? And I knew, even though I knew it was going to happen, the way they did it so quickly, I'm like, sister's dead, wife's dead. Let's go and kill these people. I mean, all this violence was happening in such a 20 minutes. People were all kinds of shit was going on, and then they're like, "We're gonna knock off this guy, the only guy in here that really deserves a happy ending. We're just gonna kill him like that. We can't do it off camera." And then the way they had done the previews, where they showed a guy getting killed, that's the guy whose body gets burned. That's what I mean by these damn previews. They do that to get you going, and it was perfect. And when I saw him pull his hair back and all this dreads were gone, I was, you know what, that's fine. Somebody deserves to make it out of this dreadful show with these dreadful people out alive. And you know what? Congratulations, Leonard, you being the one, because all these other people, I'm sorry, they all deserve horrible death. Kristen, being his usual, I mean, and I love the way when she went after him, because even Damon was like, you know what, he's going out, she's going to go after her with this knife, but I know Rainier can take care of her, or Rainier can take care of herself, and he cock blocks Kristen from getting involved.
Yeah.
So in his way, slid in there, like, yeah, you stay right here. But yeah, this episode was just fucking great, man. I enjoyed the scene between the two families. Yeah, and you see the battle lines set up. You see the green.
Did you notice that Damon, until like Kristen Cole goes to walk up on Rhaenyra, Damon's sitting in the corner, leaned up against the wall, and he's just smiling.
Yeah, because he knows how this is gonna go. You know what? And more importantly, to his credit, he not only knows how this is going to go, he knows how this needs to go. And
well, he's 5 steps ahead. He's playing chess.
Yeah, and they're playing checkers.
Everybody else is playing checkers.
Except for Otto. Otto's playing a more expensive version of checkers. But I'm sorry, nobody's going to outsmart Damon. He see all his long-term thinking. I mean, and by the way, dude is on his 3rd wife. I mean, granted, he killed one. I mean, they've all died horrible deaths. But he's on his 3rd wife, so he's a Mac, man. He got in there. He's doing what he needed to do, and he's playing the game. But you see how Allison, and they portray her perfectly as being completely over her head. She is completely over her head, and like I said, Otto is not helping.
No, he's not.
Otto is not doing anybody any favors. So yeah, that was great episode. Let me go to the chat and see what you guys thought about it. Let's see, Point Extra Lounge. All right, Allison kept forcing the issue, wanting Viserys to pick a side. Then when he finally picked a side, Allison got mad about it. Yeah, she's dumb. And I said, what have I been saying these last couple of episodes? These people are stupid. They have the advantage. They have the king there with them. And when he is no longer alive, they are there. They actually get the head start on all of this. When it all kicks in the sand, they have the strategic advantage. They're in King Landing. They're in Westeros. She's going back to Dragonstone. But you see how she understands that she needs allies. All right. And Otto has to drive it into her head. And all of her allies are garbage, because you have Otto, who's like, oh, together we can make this happen. I'm like, dude, you're a moron. And she's leaning on that weasel, the last of the Strongs there. And you want me to go take out another eye? I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go do that, because what you did before worked out well. So yeah, there's and Christian Cole, now he's not just an asshole, he's useless. But they work under the premise that people knowing that her 3 kids are bastards is going to mean something. If you don't have the power, if you don't have the positioning, you don't have shit. Just like in Game of Thrones, when Ned Stark found out that the Baratheon kids are all bastards. It didn't matter. Cersei was already in the throne, and she had the kingdom. And she had you can't prove it. Like I said, there's no moral probage to say, hey, you are the father. So you really didn't have anything. And it's just rumors. We don't have science. We just now have rumors and hearsay. And if you can't prove it, you see what kind of position she finds herself in. She looked like a crazy woman tonight. She's always looked naive. She looked like a crazy woman that did not have a hold on things.
Yeah.
and the people that are surrounding. And if you look at Rhaenyra, no matter what kind of mistakes she's made, she's always staying cool. She's always staying calm and calculating. She didn't lose control even when a crazy woman was coming after her with a Valyrian steel dagger. You see how calm she was?
And she even said, now they all see you for what you are.
And that's important. That's important because when people start to take the sides before the Dance of the Dragon, before all the slaughter starts, that is important that they see Alicent as that, because remember, we can't forget that Rhaenyra was beloved. All right, whatever you want to say about her mistakes, she's still King Viserys' eldest. She's still the one that they swore their fealty to. And back in those days, those oaths that meant a lot to those guys. If you swore oath to a house, that meant something, and they swore their oath to her. So now the Hightower branch is trying to get them to break their oath to them and try to draw these lines. And a lot of these guys aren't going to do it just based on those oaths alone. So yeah, it was definitely it was definitely intense. Okay, Anthony Mondoni, MOB, APL, Point Echelon. Thank God we made it out of okay from the hurricane. Oh wow. Okay, you made it out okay with the hurricane. Where we live in Sarasota, major flooding, just no major flooding, just power out for a couple of days and a few trees knocked down. Hey, dude, I'm happy that you were able to type this message for all of our listeners and viewers on any of our shows that are in the Florida area that got hit by Hurricane Ewing. Like I said, not an overly religious guy, but I'm praying for all of you guys to make it out as intact as possible. And Anthony, I'm happy to hear that you're one of the people that made it out. I know that it has wreaked havoc across I guess Southwest Florida, and a lot of people are without power. But you know what? Power comes back, homes can be rebuilt, but lives cannot be replaced. So I'm glad you made it through relatively okay, and for the most part, unscathed by comparison.
I would also like to say, Anthony, I'm glad you're okay. And to all of our Florida listeners, anybody who's listening that's in Florida, prayers sent your way. All the well-wishing in the universe sent your way, and I hope everybody is hale and healthy, and we see your face again.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that you're able to get to somewhere and get on the internet and get some kind of relaxation is good. So happy, as happy as I can be for you. But yeah, this is like I said, the violence was there. I mean, the violence basically took place between two women and the kids. And obviously the apparent death of Laenor, which was obviously, now that we know, was something. And I was very satisfied with the way they did that, because like I've been saying, I am waiting. I am asking them, begging them to throw me a curveball. I don't want to know that everything in the book is how it's going to turn out. Even though there are certain quotes in the book that they've used, like when she said last show, "Hey, keep trying. You'll have one that looks like you." I'm like, yeah. And remember, that was their mission, to get you to hate Alicent. Now, that mission 1 was to get you to hate her. Mission 2 is to get you to think that she's naive and angry. And I'm like, okay, she's all the above, because I'm just not liking her. But Emily Cook is doing a great job. She's playing the role. And like I said, as much as I hate these people, it is a credit to the actors and actresses that are playing their role, because they are doing their jobs. If you're supposed to feel sorry for somebody, it's like Laenor. He played the role. He made me feel sorry for him and pity him, and happy that he made it out. Those badass kids, even though they're child actors, those badass kids made me want to see the shit slapped out of all of them, for the most part, especially the silver-haired ones. Otto Hightower, as from day one, when he pimped his underage daughter out to a 50, really old dude. I hated him. But like I said, it is a testament to the people who are playing these roles that they're compelling you to the right emotions. Even Viserys is like, I feel sorry for him, but I'm like, dude, you started this. You married the wrong chick. If you'd have married what became Daemon's wife, we wouldn't even have any of this going on. Even if you had, because it would have taken her too long, because she was way young. By the time that she had a kid, Rhaenyra would have already had a son. So they're the line of succession. So Viserys' weakness and indecision really caused all this. So
the two things that Viserys should have done is he should have married Laena, even though she was young, and he should have married Rhaenyra to Daemon.
Yeah, as Damon asked, there would have been no challenge to that claim. If he would have allowed that to happen and then they'd have had kids, there would have been no challenge to that claim.
Well, because the people, the small folk, love Daemon Targaryen.
Yeah, it's the the executives that don't like him.
It's the nobles that dislike Daemon.
Yeah. Oh, did you see that scene where where Otto comes up? I'm sorry for your loss, my prince. He's like, even a leech that feeds is always looking for the next meal. He's like, fuck you today, fuck you tomorrow, fuck you no matter what. I don't care who died. I don't care if we're at a wedding. I don't care if we're at a funeral. Fuck you. And he uses every moment that he's eye to eye with him to tell him, fuck you. All right.
Okay, now to answer Anthony in the thing, yes, I do get a feel of Hamlet and King Lear and Macbeth in this. It's based on a lot of those tragedies that were written. There's a lot of medieval literature and medieval history based in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And a lot of just regular medieval history too. I mean, there's a lot of like actual historical fact going on with this show too, things that happen in our real world.
Yeah, it's basically bet on that medieval, that medieval thing that Shakespeare always put. Corlys and his wife are pissed now. Okay, so yeah, because they believe they've lost a son. But here's the thing about the Valerians is they may see something fishy is going on with Daemon and Rhaenyra. They fucking hate Otto Hightower and them. Remember that whole thing about him being married off like that. Remember that was supposed to happen. That his daughter was supposed to marry the king, and he slighted him, and then he gave him his son. But that was still a line. So even though Lana knows that those aren't her grandkids, I don't think there's anything that can replace the hatred that she has for the other side. And strategically, I think they're going to side with the blacks, obviously, because there's family. Those children are still going to be taken care of by Daemon. Those children are going to be protected by them, and those are still her children. And and remember the Battle of the Stepstones is one of the real things that they showed that reason, and they showed that bond. Daemon fought at the side of Lord Corlys and the Sea Snake. He came to his aid when when the king wouldn't. So there's not a good relationship between House Valerian and the Hightower branch. So they're pissed, but I think they know how to see the board. They know what the game pieces look like, and I think they're going to choose.
Well, also, Corlys Valerian is not a dumb person, not a dumb man. He knows where his bread is buttered.
Yeah.
Daemon will defend. Daemon will defend House Valerian.
Yep.
Otto Hightower will burn him down.
Yeah, and his daughters. Remember, Daemon has daughters. Those are his granddaughters. So they're family. All right. So Anthony, can you guys please explain how King Viserys lasted all the way to the beginning of Game of Thrones with the Yeah, I thought I didn't know how the time jumps were going to happen. He stayed alive a lot longer than I thought.
He's misunderstanding. He's thinking that King Viserys was the Mad King. No, he doesn't last to Game of Thrones. That's still 150 years away. What's going on?
You're talking about Aerys. I'm sorry. Aerys is the Mad King.
Yeah, Aerys is the Mad King. No, King Viserys will die probably next episode. Because the preview for next episode has already showed Okay, so Daenerys is actually related to both sides of the she is both related to both sides of the Targaryen family. She is a descendant of Alicent and Rhaenyra.
Yes. Spoiler, but yes. I didn't know if I should say that. Yes, I just thought about that. Yes. In order for me to explain that to you, for those of you in here, okay, for those of you watching, the spoiler alerts down there. So if you're watching this, I can spoil it. Let me know in the chat if you want me to give you a detailed explanation of what he just told you. because to explain that family line to where we end up in Game of Thrones, there may be some certain things that you know or need to know, but you might not want to know them until these episodes roll out or until the story rolls out. It's up to you guys. But yeah, okay. What line of the Targaryen is nearest part from the High Tower part? Wow.
He's asking about Daenerys from Game of Thrones.
Okay, so I'm going to give everybody 5 seconds, and then I'm going to sort of let you know how some things roll out. Should I? Or should I just let them watch it out? I mean, it's up to them.
Let them tell us. Let them tell us whether they want to know or not.
Yeah, chat room. Let me know if you want me to tell you how certain things wrap up, and then I can actually let you know if that great documentary George R. R. Martin, John Jones. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay. Yes, explain it for the non-book readers. All right, guys. Here's where we're gonna go. So I'm gonna keep my hands up for those of you who are watching this on a replay. While my hands are up, I am spoiling a great deal. All right, so I'm gonna give you 5 seconds, and then I'm gonna roll. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Daenerys line, as Thade says, does come from both lines simply because here's what ends up happening. This civil war basically ends with the Rhaenyra's line being the last one left simply because Daemon and her have children, and they are this the aftermath of the Dance of the Dragon pretty much sees the High Tower to get absolutely destroyed. Okay, so but there is a daughter left over from the High Tower side, the one of Alicent's last remaining child.
Hold on. It's Helena's daughter, Jaehaera.
Yeah.
So it's Alicent's granddaughter that survives and marries Rhaenyra's son.
That we have not seen yet.
That has not been born yet. Rhaenyra and Daemon's son.
He is Aegon the Third. He is called Aegon the Younger. And one of the things that spurs on the war is the fact that Rhaenyra would name her kid Aegon while there was another Aegon there. She got obviously Alicent soft. She thought that was the insult. So they get married, but the dominant line is Aegon the Younger, which is Rhaenyra and Daemon's son. So technically, if you want to go by whose bloodline sits on the thrones, it's Rhaenyra's. It's the black. The blacks win.
Yes.
All right. So,
but by blood though, King Aegon III marries Lady Jaehaera, which is Alicent's granddaughter. So technically, both lines of the Targaryen feud are reunited by what's left of their children.
Reunited by what's left of their children, but since the male heir is from her line, it's her. That's what it meant. It wouldn't. The daughter. See, remember how they treat women like shit, and they wouldn't let a woman rule. That's what started this whole thing. So it's the son, Aegon III, rules, and even though both sides of the bloodline are represented, one of them is the sovereign.
Right.
Consort, one of them's a sovereign. So that's how that happened. So yes, that is how Daenerys and all Targaryens that flow from this line flow from them. All right, my hands are down now, and that's the extreme spoiler stuff that's over with. So hope I didn't fuck up the show for people. Okay, yeah, you're okay. You're cool with it. So yeah, so far everybody's cool with it.
Now, Jumper, I can answer this question here. Daemon is a sociopath. Daemon knows what Daemon wants. Daemon wants the throne. Okay, what was originally supposed to be his. Now he knows he has to marry Rhaenyra to do that. His daughters with Laena were just a complication.
A formality.
A formality. It's not that he doesn't love them. It's just that's not where he wanted to be.
He's always all these people are breaking out of shells that they've been made to do. Everybody, this is all this friction is coming from the fact that nobody's doing what they wanted to do. Everybody's doing what their duty. That's why Alicent is so pissed off, because she's done everything that she was supposed to do. She got whored off to an old man. She married him. She basically became an incubator for him. She's followed all the rules and customs, but Rhaenyra, who is the heir to the throne, has not. She's broken all the rules, and she never has to pay a price for it, and that's one of the reasons why she hates her. But even
And that's
Rhaenyra,
what she said.
yeah,
In the
even
fight.
Rhaenyra, yeah, and I love Rhaenyra's response to that. Even Rhaenyra though had to marry a guy she didn't want to marry, have kids she didn't want to have. Tried to get pregnant by the guy she married, but it didn't work out. Is now having to deal with the fact that if she were a guy, none of this would be second guessed because all the guys in King's Landing can bang anyone they want to, and they can have trillions of bastards, and nobody cares. Nobody cares about their virtue. But because of the time, because when a woman does it, now her throne would be called into doubt. Even though Baratheon, everybody, all these guys, even future Targaryens are going to have bastards that they legitimize, but because they're the males, they can do it. So she's always have that over her shoulder. Everybody in the show, for the most part, has done what they've done by duty, and then you have the calculating assholes like Otto, and then you have Daemon. But Daemon's kind of both. I mean, he basically sees himself as having paid the price for his brother's weakness, and he even says it straight in his face. So
now, and I'm gonna align this to actual historical events. We're gonna look at the Tudor line in England, Henry VIII and his children. Henry could do whatever he wanted to. King Henry VIII could father thousands of bastards, and he did father several bastards. But one of his wives, well, actually two of his wives, were executed for treason, and he said that they had committed treason by sleeping with other men instead of him. The thing is what this show is showing is how things really were during medieval times amongst the nobility. Women were seen as nothing but trash. It's only by virtue of the fact that none of Henry VIII's male line heirs survived that both of his daughters became queens.
Yep.
He had his one son that lived to 15 was king for a couple of years. And then his two daughters ruled for several years, one way more than the other.
Yeah.
But Queen Mary the First ruled for like 5 or 6 years, and Queen Elizabeth the First ruled for 60 or 40 something years. So, but the only reason those two women were queens of England were because there were no male line heirs.
Same thing with the last topic.
If there was a male line heir in any of those families, then those women would have just been ladies that were married off to other nobles.
By the way, for historical preference, that's one of the reasons why Queen Elizabeth was queen. But she changed that law. They changed that law now. So after her grandson, after her great grandson was born, they changed the law so that any line of succession could be male or female. If it's a female, she can take the throne. Now they changed that law now because of that.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the things that they did it after Prince George was born. After Prince William's son was born, they changed that law so that no longer exists. After thousands of years of monarchy, that no longer exists. So that's just kind of ironic now that the current royalty does not recognize it. So, all right. So Anthony Manzano, what's the MOB mean, by the way? Is that let me know what that means. I'm just curious. Damon is a sociopath. Rhaenyra is a mixture of both psychopath and sociopath, and Alicent is a psychopath. Do you guys agree that way? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, except for Alicent. Alicent is just mentally weak, and she just can't take it.
Look, the thing about the Targaryens and why there's a lot of mental illness in the Targaryen line is because of the inbreeding.
Yeah,
we're talking about people who married sisters. Okay, so.
Yeah, the uncle nephew and the nephew niece. This is not nothing to what these guys are doing. I mean, people look at what we did in Game of Thrones with Danny and Jon Snow banging each other. I'm like, dude, Aegon. I mean, the parents of this particular group were brother and sister. I mean, and they had multiple wives too, which is one of the things that Damon brought up a couple episodes ago. Is that Aegon the Conqueror had multiple wives. So to guarantee his line of succession. So, he married two sisters. He didn't just marry one, he married two sisters. So they just got down, man.
I like when Aemon and Aegon are talking during the funeral, and they're talking about their sister Helena, and Aemond is the younger brother's like, well, you're supposed to marry her, and he's like, I don't want her. She's daft.
Oh, I thought they were
And,
talking about Rhaenyra. They were talking about Rhaenyra.
no, they were talking about their sister Helena because she was playing with the spider.
Oh, long legs. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then Aemon goes, Aegon's like, well, what would you do? And Aemon goes, I would do my duty. I would do what's bidden of me.
Yeah, that's what they. We look at them now and be like, you people are fucking crazy, but we're like, we're not from that time. And even though this is fantasy, this is reflective of a time that did, that kind of happened. This is based on
Also,
some real
keep
shit.
in mind historically, the pharaohs of Egypt often married their sisters to keep the line pure too.
Yeah, and that's why when you look up when they were digging up the bodies of like King Tut and all that, and the deformities, they trace a lot of the deformities and a lot of the illnesses. There's a theory that because of the inbreeding, King Tut's bones, he was not built the way a normal human being because he
was twisted.
Yeah,
he had a hunchback. One of his hips was turned inward. One of his hip bones was turned inward, so he walked with a limp.
Yeah, because they did an autopsy on him because he died. They said he died of a chariot, he crashed in a chariot. But when they looked at his injuries, he's like, this is not, yeah, he's twisted, but this isn't what killed him. He was messed up genetically, and their heads were all, misshapen and shit because of,
They had cone-shaped heads.
Yeah. So yeah, it was, now today, I could not imagine doing anything like that, but that wasn't the time. I mean, we weren't, we laugh at inbreeding here. We make fun of people that are from certain regions. Oh, you're from the inbred, so and so. And I'm like, I think of it and I automatically say, ew. But there's no sense of duty with us. I mean, if we grow up with our dad saying you're going to marry your sister, and that's what you're in. That's the environment you're in. We watch it now. We're like, ew, but we're like, they don't know 2022. So it's not like their morals and standards are different. And the blood, like you said, the blood was thicker than anything. And
a lot of people, and this is something that I've always had a pet peeve with from history. A lot of people look down on the noble family. Like a lot of the common folk look down on the noble families. Well, they can do whatever they want. They have no trouble. That's a lie. A lot of royals through history and even now are lonely people because due to being born into a family that they were given no choice to, they have to follow a certain class of duty that we will never understand. Whether you agree with the monarchy or not, it's a hard road to hoe, even if you're noble blood. It's even harder. We as commoners can do whatever we wish. They can't.
Yeah,
they have to hold a certain standard. They have to hold to a certain duty, and it's a hard road to hoe, regardless of what power people perceive that they have.
And to give you an example of how harsh that is, King Edward, he abdicated because he did not want it. He did not want to hold those duties.
King Edward VIII wanted to marry his American wife, his American girlfriend,
Wallace.
And just Wallace Simpson, yeah. And he wasn't going to be legally able to because not only was she American, but she had been divorced, and that was a no-no at the time.
You know what? And in his defense, they were married for the rest of their lives. They grew old together, so he was happy in that respect. So I got to, he chose his destiny, and like I said, it wasn't like he went for a fling, and then 2 years later, there was a divorce, and he was looking for his crown back. He went first, and she went out. They were in their 70s or whatever, and so they were, till he found the woman he wanted to. Okay, I'm glad I wasn't interpreting it wrong because Rhaenyra seems genuinely to love Daemon. Daemon seems less than her, but no, I think I do think they're hot for each other. You saw that when they were about to do each other. But here's the thing about these two. I think they respect each other. I think there's a respect there.
It's a mutual respect, and the thing is they do love each other. Daemon does love her.
Yeah,
he's just
for the first time he has a woman he loves.
He's so detached from life because again, it goes to that duty. It goes to what he knows he has to do versus what he wants to do. If Daemon had his druthers, he'd be a soldier for the rest of his life. Daemon was only truly happy when he was killing.
Yeah. Both. Anthony Manzano, I'm going to answer both to this question. What do you got? or what are you going to say when Damon actually loves her now? I think he does actually love her, but it's both. They don't know anything outside of conquest, duty, and sometimes love. This is rare though, because all of his previous wives were not. He said these weren't wives of my choosing. Remember, he wanted her. He asked Viserys for her hand. Remember that when Viserys had him on the ground and was going to stab him? He's like, give me Rhaenyra's hand. He wanted her. And then, but at the same time, he is attracted to her. I do think he does love her. But at the same time, he said in that same sentence, it would strengthen our house. So I don't think I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. I don't think these people can love without thinking about duty. Even if it's somebody they love and it's not chosen for them, even if they do choose that person, they're choosing that person out of both attraction and strategic duty. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Stella, the historian boy, Stella's that now Wikipedia, man. Wallis Simpson was divorced twice, but the real reason was because she was a Nazi. You know what though? That family had a history of that. Remember, the Goth Saxica or whatever, they had to change their names because remember they were all related back in World War I. So they had to change their name to the Windsor because Goth. I forgot the exact name. Still, I know
Coburg Gotha. They were Coburg Gotha was their name. They were German nobility.
Yeah, and that just wasn't no-go.
Coburg Gotha was the name of the family.
And Edward was the sympathizer, but okay, so when we say Nazi sympathizers right now, after we know what the Nazis were, we know the history of what the Nazis were. Back when a lot of people were in bed and with the Nazis and sympathizing with the Nazis and strategically aligning themselves with the Nazis, they weren't the Nazis that we know. We have it all in front of us now. We know the camps. We know all of this stuff. But what they were doing is they thought they were aligning themselves with what was a legitimate world power. We now know that it was all what it was. But remember Chamberlain? I mean, there were people, heads of state, that were negotiating with the Nazis. So at the time that it would be different if you would put them at a different point in time and be like, you're sympathizing with this? Are you crazy? But at the time, there were a lot of people that were running the Hitler thing. Okay, this is the new power in Europe. We can either go to war, which nobody wanted to. That's where appeasement came from, or we can align ourselves with this guy strategically, and get the best of both worlds.
The major problem, and this is my problem with what Edward VII did, okay, with his connections to Adolf Hitler. And keep in mind also, Ford, the guy who started Ford, Ford Motor Company, Henry Ford was also a Nazi sympathizer.
Yeah.
He was also a eugenicist. He believed in the Aryan ideal. But
yeah, we got to be real careful here because there's a whole lot of things.
I know. I'm being careful. I'm being careful.
What's hilarious though is it's not off. It's not out of bounds. I mean, but the eugenics thing that he adopted. There was a documentary about how we were using it here in the 1920s, and Hitler took note of that, and he used that as his doctrine. But not that it's not off the limit. It's a different stream. But wow, it's dude. We'll talk about that one day, and we'll have to see how we can approach that stream because it's very interesting to where the origins of that. But to your point, everybody was on board then because they didn't look at it what we saw now. There were people in America that were denying what Hitler was doing up until the point where they could no longer. To the point where Eisenhower and Patton were walking people through the camp saying, "You see this? You see this? Well, we see it now because we know it all now." But they were denying it then. It's unfortunate.
It's easy to ignore something when you're riding high. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's just the curse of history. That's just the curse of history. And I will never see what they did as being anywhere close to right. Okay.
Oh no.
Hitler was a psychopath. He was surrounded by psychopaths.
And unfortunately, he was the wrong guy at a time where Germany was just, reeling from World War II, and he told them what they wanted to hear.
World War
I, Treaty of Versailles. He told them what they wanted to hear, and that was dangerous. But like I said, the governments around Europe were like, after World War I, nobody wanted another Great War, and we ended up getting one anyway. But everybody was going to do everything that they possibly could to avoid that. They wanted that to be the one and only because they knew what was going to happen, and they were right to do everything that they could to avoid it because, 20 million people. I mean, it was, we'll never see. Hopefully, knock on wood. Hopefully, we never see anything like World War II. World War II was a catastrophe. It's a catastrophe that just did so much damage. But you know what? It's the only time that we've used a nuclear weapon against an enemy in an active war. And
there are certain men in power right now that would like to see a return to that regime. One of them is causing a lot of trouble in Eastern Europe at the moment.
Yeah.
And he is threatening some very drastic things.
Well, I'll put it on the table. You're talking about Putin, and you're talking about the low yield nuclear threats that he's putting out. Here's the thing, though. There's a reason why it's been 80 years since we've used it, because nobody wants that to happen again, and everybody knows what is unleashed once one is dropped. It is basically the end of whoever launches it, and probably the end of a lot more. I think no matter who it is, I don't care who the world leader is, if one person says, you know what, I think we should escalate this to that, the people that are around him are going to be like, wait a minute, I'm not turning that key. I'm not. He can't run into an office and push a button. It's not like a cartoon where there's a button that pops up and the guy goes beep. There's a lot of things that have to happen to launch nuclear in any world. And since
I think he's already losing footing with his own people, and I think that if he tries to go that far, I mean, he can threaten all he wants, he can saber rattle all he wants.
I think one of his own people would knock him out.
If Putin pushes it too far, his own people will take him out.
Yeah, his own them fat oligarchs that are making all that money off that money laundering are going to be like, whoa, wait a minute. You're going to nuke. Wait, hold on. It's going to get real hot in here real quick. I can't make money with all this radiation. You're going to have to go. The Jumper. I love that name. Didn't they allude to Damon being impotent after the short? They did, but I think Damon gets it up when he wants to. When there's
with Damon, it was he didn't want to be married to the wife from The Veil, his first wife. With Lena, he had a respect for her, but he really didn't want to be married to her. But he did his duty by her and had children.
Yeah,
and with Rhaenyra, the only reason he was impotent the first time he tried with his niece was because she was young. He even says it this episode, "You were young." That's why he didn't do it before.
Yeah, it's but no, he had no problems this episode. Oh, by the way, they bang on the beach. I thought they were just going to do it right on the beach. I'm like, dude, they're going to do this out in the open like this, and they found the little wreck ship, and they went at it, and really subtle. But it all happened so quick. I'm like, they basically see the death of Laenor, and then like the next scene, let's get married. And then if you notice, I didn't see Corlys and Lena there. It didn't seem like they were there, so they were like, you know what? Wow, you dirty bastards! He's just not. I mean, we haven't even buried him yet. You guys are banging and you're smiling at your marriage, but I love that union. That's the union of smart people.
And Stella makes a good point in that bottom comment. There's still governments in the world that frown on what we did in World War II.
Yeah,
because there are still governments of the world that are afraid of the United States because we're the only ones that have ever gone that far.
But here's the thing, though, about this, and now you wouldn't be able to do it because it violated the rules of engagement that did not exist until we dropped the bomb. Technically, the rules of engagement, when it comes to the U.S. military, you do everything in your power to avoid civilian casualties. But what Truman decided, it was that the amount of his first responsibility as commander in chief was to the men and that were going to have to storm the beach and invade.
The whole reason why we dropped those bombs was a legitimately good reason. We knew that the Japanese would never stop. It was a war of attrition. Yeah, the Japanese were never going to surrender.
Yeah.
In fact, they weren't even going to surrender after the 2 bombs. The only reason they surrendered is because we told them we would drop a third one on Kyoto, which is their holy city, which is where their emperor was.
Well, and they didn't even care then. What told them to stop is when the emperor said it. When they heard the voice of their god, their emperor, saying no, because remember, those generals were trying to trying to keep him from making that recording. There was a conspiracy to try to. Dude. Listen, the Japanese Empire that lasted all the way up until the end of World War II. They were a bunch of atrocious things for what they did and how they treated POWs and everything else. But as far as their commitment to war and to the last man, they weren't going to stop. And Truman knew that. And Truman understood that. And when they told him what the casualties were going to be to invade that, he's like, I'm basically consigning all these men to death and their families to, fatherless children. I mean, I'm basically giving away a generation. And on top of that, there's a lot more innocent people because once you invade Tokyo, you would have ended up killing a lot more people. I mean, Curtis LeMay, remember Curtis LeMay, who ended up becoming the Air Force Chief of Staff, he wanted to carpet bomb everything, and he had the incendiary bomb campaign, and that was going to kill a lot more people because he was going up and down the islands. He wasn't just going to bomb Tokyo; he was going to bomb them into submission. And even though you had 2 nuclear weapons that exploded and killed hundreds of thousands of people, the amount of people that would have died on both sides is
staggering. Is staggering.
So technically, the rules of engagement, the way the military is you're supposed to do whatever you can to avoid civilian casualties. You're supposed to weigh that against the health and welfare of your assets, your men, your women that you're in command of. So that's a hard decision that Truman had to make. I believe he made the right one, but I can understand where people are like, there was no other way to do it. But then you go back to the math of thousands of people on both sides that didn't need to die for a prolonged interaction when I can end it right now. So they could debate that till the cows came home and left again. So yeah, it's a tough one. And trust me, scholars that are far smarter than I'll ever be are still debating that and been debating that for 80 years. Does anybody know how many episodes we have left? We have 3.
We have 3 more episodes left in the season, and it's most likely already greenlit for a second. I think it's already greenlit for a second season. Greenlit.
They're never going to not greenlit Game of Thrones. 28 million people watching. Oh boy, that is a cow. They're going to keep that cash cow. They're going to feed that cash cow all the grass the cow can eat, and they're going to want that cash cow to have more cows. So yeah, Game of Thrones. If there's anything that's safe in Warner Brothers Discovery, it's Game of Thrones, baby. It is proven. It is a proven winner, and they proved it. This show is excellent. And somebody was saying in the chat something I said in the beginning. The casting of this show is so accurately stunning. You're not just casting people who look like a certain thing. They're casting people who can emote the emotions. I mean, Matt Smith, I never thought I could hate Matt Smith and want to slap the hell out of him as I do now. I'm still rooting for him, but I'm like, dude, the 11th Doctor, I'm still looking for him to put on a fez. And I'm like, I'm having to let go because he's doing he offed his wife. Let's not forget the guy who we're rooting for and he gets a new wife, his third in the last, 6 episodes, is the same guy who knocked his wife off in the first 5 minutes of one of the episodes.
Yeah.
No remorse. And was disrespectful to his kin when they came up saying, I know you did this. And he's like, hey, by the way, I'm gonna be at your crib to claim my shit.
I'm gonna pull up in a couple of days.
Yeah.
You better have what's mine, you know what I'm
saying? No remorse. So all right, guys, I think we have touched it all. I'm going to have to rewatch the episode. If you guys have any questions, and if you're watching this in the rewatch, which a lot of you guys are going to be, if you're watching this in the rewatch, go ahead and post your comments on either my channel or this one. I'll get to them. Anything we did not get to live, I can't respond to in kind, I will respond to on our next show, which will be this coming Friday at 6:30, and then we have our overnight show, and then we have at least we have 3 more of these Game of Thrones recaps. So thank you guys for coming in. Thank you for continuing to watch the show and be involved in our show. And not just for the people that are in the chat right now, watching live right now. This goes for the people who will watch this show, because we get an awful lot of people who watch our shows in the days and weeks afterwards. I'm still watching people. Getting people who are commenting on our Blade Runner show the other day. We did that Blade Runner show months ago, and I'm still getting people messaging me about that show, which is good. I mean, once the content is out there, it's out there for you guys to enjoy. It's immortal.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you, Thade. And
I just want to say thank you to the chat. Thank you for everybody that's going to watch now and in the future. Everybody be safe. Have a good weekend and a good start of your week.
I just said
thank you for being here.
In my Kermit the Frog Cookie Monster voice, I just said the same exact thing. Are you just because you have a better voice?
express-
Because you have a human voice that doesn't sound like a Muppet? You had to say it again. All right, man. See you guys later.